This is the financial committee meeting. Finance committee meeting for the Monroe Township School District, January 10th, 2024. This evening we'll be reviewing our bills and going over a few proposals. So the first proposal, I believe, Mr. Moraldi, you have for us?
So we have been, as part of our district commitment to finding ways to optimize our ability to perform both operationally and on the curricular side, we've been trying to find ways to streamline some of our activities and our communications across in all aspects of the organization: business, human resources, facilities, and more important, from my perspective, most importantly, curriculum and instruction. Obviously over the last couple of weeks, or really longer than that now, months, years, one of the things that we've been dealing with in education, not just here in Monroe, but really throughout New Jersey and across the country, you've been hearing teacher shortages. And what part of that, there are teacher shortages, but what we're really seeing is that there's teacher shortages in really key areas of content and services. And what we were quickly identifying in our conversations with the human resources team was that our ability as a district to really use things like data and the best practices and resources to identify ways that we can improve our ability to manage human resources and general quality control, from everything from recruitment, retention, to optimizing even staff's ability to function within the organization for trainings and contract printing and referencing and all of the different differentials that exist in an agreement that we have with our staff. And even when we were doing things like pulling for Dr. Higgins' most recent process, where we needed to do an audit on teachers that held master's degrees in certain content areas, we were finding that things that should just be drag and drop, click, 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 were taking us days and sometimes even weeks through no fault of the labor, because it's just we have antiquated system that has been restricted to paper and some very old-fashioned processes. So we went down school boards. This was an objective of ours for a couple of years now, and it's been something that we've been quietly discussing and admittedly frustrated about, particularly when it comes to some timely answers on things like recruiting teachers, finding out what type of teachers could fit in certain areas. As you know, here in Monroe, we have a lot of shared teachers amongst multiple buildings, and we're getting larger and our staff is expanding. So it's just a very difficult way to manage the coming and goings of all of those functions within HR. Long story short, why does this have to deal with finance? So one of the things that Dr. Chanley tasked me to do, along with Ms. Christie, when we were down at school boards, was to examine possible solutions, not just in HR, but really just in district-wide, to make us more efficient, more timely, and more responsive in a timely manner. And in our discussions, we were examining various vendors and products, and we came across Genesis, which is already a partner of ours. And we have known for a while that our district is using just one slice of what Genesis has to offer. We currently use the Student Information Management System. Genesis offers another, and I want to be careful, I don't want to sound like a salesperson, but I just want to give you the rationale. Genesis offers another function that's called AIMS, the Administrative Information Management System. And within that system, they offer a variety of modules. We're looking at the Human Resources module right now, which would help eliminate some, and I feel comfortable speaking for Ms. Christie, some considerable inefficiencies, not through any fault of workers, but just through our processes that would really help us to improve as a district. Streamline, yeah. That's excellent. What this would allow us to do also in a more larger vision would then potentially build out our systems and even potentially upgrade some of the other more antiquated processes that we believe exist within our organization in some of the more financial matters. But path is laid one stone at a time. And I think our more pressing need right now is to make sure our teachers and our human resources operations are streamlined. What this would allow us to do also is connect the curriculum and instructional office with the HR more intimately in a way that allows us to synergize. Because we know that one of the things we've learned, and we learned this down in school boards as well, teachers don't not respect, but they don't care about tenure as much as they used to. They're chasing coin, especially in the unique certification areas. And we think that we could do some things on our end to help improve our ability to, manage that. And streamlining our systems is one of them. So one of the things that we're going to be examining as we prepare the budget, or we'll be advocating for, is to onboard this new system in place of our current system. We had spoken with our tech department and our human resources department, and they are in agreement that this would be something that would improve our district's ability to function. The nice thing about it is that Genesis already exists as part of our normal operations here in the district. And this, although any new system would, it's going to be clunky in the beginning, we feel very good about our relationship with Genesis and the services that they provided us in the past. And we think that this would be the most logical step into bringing our organization into the 21st century. So we're in the process of still working with Genesis and examining other vendors that can offer similar services. Right now, we're pretty much all in agreement. This is the product that we like. Our team is currently still talking with Genesis about what that onboarding would look like, and also various cost points that are important to us, obviously. And again, the disclaimer to all this is that this is conceptual. We still have to make it fit in our budget. And Ms. Allen may come back and say it's just it's not going to work. But our idea would be to replace current systems, which command a cost, with this. And I believe that we could probably get pretty close to a push as far as expenditures. But more importantly, what makes us most excited from a futurist standpoint is that we think that within the next 16 to 18 to 5 years, if we continue to build out in this fashion, we would see a significant improvement in district operations, our ability to be responsive, and just our ability to even institute quality control measures, which would then allow us to function and manage our staff better. I think that, just to give you one example that Ms. Christie gave us, she has to hand print and handwrite every teacher contract for every staff member every year. That was a very superficial solution that this software would give us. There are also a lot of different processes that take place when students or teachers add certifications or credentials to their record.
3 different programs.
And I think she said she uses 3 separate individual programs to manage HR.
And sometimes 5 in certain areas.
And then we haven't even talked about how that then transfers into Ms. Allen's operations. And that's not something we're going to go down that road just yet, but we would examine about any potential for improvements and ways that we could help Ms. Allen's office streamline things as well. But this would be, if we are going in the direction, HR is the first step on that path. And we would then, if this is something that we decided to move forward with, and if the price is right, what we would then do is Genesis would then talk with our tech team, would talk about what kind of specifications, and because we're already housing the student information system, they've assured us that would be nominal. And then it would come into making sure operationally it's feasible. It aligns with our operations that take place in spring, summer, and want to make sure that we would minimize any disruption to Ms. Christie's office. But we hypothesize that it would do just the opposite.
I think that you touched on, as you were talking, you touched on some of the questions that I had come up with. You talked about additional vendors, because that was a thought that I had, was like, we really should not be pigeonholing into one vendor. We should be looking, obviously there's got to be systems out there, and I know Genesis is, is definitely one of the standards, that is used, particularly here in New Jersey. The fact that we already use them and have a relationship with them can also work in our favor. But if there are other systems out there, we have to do it. We should do our due diligence to make sure we're looking at those. I think it's great to go from 5 different systems to one, to be able to put that all together. I'm sure would even help with some of the stuff we just talked about in curriculum, about the partnerships we're trying to put together with the colleges. We'd be able to pull those reports in a much,
and that's why I
more
thought of that
efficient manner, for them to be, because Dr. Higgins right now is, putting that information
So
together.
if you were to ask us, I would like to see, so the standard for Middlesex College has always been, in order for us to form an articulation agreement, they want our teachers to hold a master's degree in that content area, which in education isn't very common, at least at this level of education, because a lot of times, for good or for ill, when a teacher pursues a master's degree, at least in the 21st century, they're going after administration or for some sort of career advancement. So what that does is that makes it difficult to find, unless you get someone that's really passionate about the content, those people are out there, or someone that maybe came from a different walk of life. It's hard to find degrees. So if you were to say, Zach, I would like you to tell me everyone that holds a master's degree in language arts or something in the humanities, my next move would be to then reach out to Ms. Christie's office, and they would actually have to pull paper at that point, or something one step above that. And I know just right now, and I'll be completely honest with you, if I looked up Zachary Malda on Genesis, it would not have my most updated degree or certification. And again, that's not through anything fault of Rome. We have a different HR system, but imagine if we could do all of our business in one space.
In one space.
And then what would that would lead to would be potential for other systems to be onboarded. And right now, you know, we have all of our student information on Genesis. We don't, all of our other district information is elsewhere, for the most part. So it's like you have a Corvette and you're driving 15 miles per hour on the freeway, and there's the potential to open it up and to do more and to really enhance what we think we're capable of, but we're just not the governor caps on right now. So this would be the step in maybe taking a look at what more we can do.
Yeah.
I have a question, couple. How long has Miss Christie been doing it this way and why? I mean, if it takes up that much time,
I can answer that.
please, I mean,
So
to me, it should have been taken care of a
So
while.
she's been our employee for 7 years,
Next one, right?
7 years. And I know, I mean, I've only been in this position now 2.5 years, 2 years in November. She approached me, when I started looking at, you know, there was some changes, some cross-pollination, moving things around. She came to me and said, you know, I would love the opportunity to sit down and discuss with you, a different system, because our system is so antiquated, and so time-consuming and such a waste of time. She said, I guess she tried in the past, it never came to fruition. So, we started looking, and then we started going to some conferences, and, we started having the conversation of, well, you know, tell me what it looks like. And there is no reason why you can't have a management information systems that both for administrative as well as for the students. And, she was just explaining, that was one perfect example. She did say there was another, I'm not sure what it was, but she gave a specific example that there was 5 different programs that she has to go into. It was 5. She used the number 5 before getting to what she needed to get to pull reports. And then she shared with me how she was doing by hand, because now we have the approved contract.
So
I don't think we can answer the why.
Why, yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
I mean,
and I don't think it's,
I know what you're.
honestly,
yeah,
but I don't
well, I
think
can't
it's.
answer the why, because she spoke to, Dr. Janley about it. So, and you.
But she's
what,
only been here 2
Yeah,
years.
2 years.
So,
No, I know,
but
2 years
all
ago.
before us, in my
It's taken that
estimate,
long to.
I can
delve
tell you
into it
that
and check it out.
previous administrations, probably it was not a priority. We've made things like this a priority in the districts
Yes,
for the
I
last
do.
couple of years. And I don't think it's fruitful for us to try and second guess what other
What it was.
boards have done or what other
Yeah,
administrations have
not,
done.
I'm just
So I
asking-
just, you know, I think,
Well, as an example,
Why
if I
and-
could,
sure,
when we brought up out of finance,
Mhm.
the antiquated system for POs, we were met with a lot of resistance from our former BA, who didn't want to go to a computerized system. Everything in the business office was done paper.
Oh,
And HR reported into
Correct.
that area at that point. And unfortunately,
We've also
I
had,
know we pushed really hard.
We did.
and we got it, and I think Ms. Allen could attest to the fact that that's been a game changer in the business office with the POs, and that's been a very positive change. So I think we did that 1 year, and I know we've been tasking Dr. Chanley with doing more in the business office to make it more,
and with
bring it
regards
to
to
the 21st
Genesis
century.
specifically, and we've talked about this, and I happen to think it's one of the best things this district has done, personally, just for how it affects my day-to-day. Our tech staff has had some significant enhancements and new leadership and things like that, that has timed out nicely with what this district has needed. So now we have become a more data-driven district of over the last 16 months, and so much so that our administrators are using Genesis a lot more for solutions. We're writing more reports on Genesis, and I think what that's become, and some of these things in the college, and the college presentation tonight is the perfect example of how some of these newer, more ambitious initiatives that we're undertaking is requiring a more data and more systems-based approach to being able to do that. And another example where this kind of came to a head was that we're sharing more staff now, particularly to try to optimize some of these unique programs. And when we sit together and we try to figure out who's working where at what time, you may also notice that, and I don't know what gets to personnel committee, but when we do our hiring processes, we still write, pen and paper a lot of our feedback. And in some instances, that becomes very difficult for our recruitment, and because it's nice to have records that we can reflect on and details and things like that, and that just doesn't exist. We don't have a centralized location where we could share and review and assess information related to human resources operations. And as the industry has become, and we've always believed that this is a person-driven industry. Curriculum is only as good as the person executing it. As this has become more and more challenging for school leaders to identify and recruit and develop qualified staff, the need for such a database has increased substantially. And I think it just came to a head now. And under Ms. Christie's leadership, she's a very data-driven individual. I think that she's probably just, I don't want to speak for her, but, you know, we've been talking about this a lot over the last.
I think, the personnel, you know, we have Ms. Allen here, who's very open to change and very open to moving forward. We have Ms. Christie, who I work hand in hand with all of my hiring as the Director of Human Resources, with the support of the board and the expectation of the board of me and my role, not just support, but expectation. We have been going in the direction that, you know, perhaps we, you know, it's easy to say hindsight's 2020, oh, this should have been done already. I can't speak to what was before, but we know now, we also work very well together. Mr. Feldman is exceptional. And the fact that he is so willing and comfortable with change and moving and shaking, for lack of a better term, that also lets us get all this
And
done.
that's what I was trying to say. I think.
That's really what it is.
And one of them right out there, I don't want to speak for him either, Mr. Allen.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think we also have a tech staff
Yeah.
that is adept in this type
Yep.
of technology, which makes us as school leaders able to utilize it more effectively, because I know the high school uses the report writers in Genesis daily. And this is only for students. Imagine as an administrative team, if we could apply that same process to some of the ways we address our human resources challenges. And I think that's where this all came from, as the personnel part of this industry has become much more and more challenging.
Thank you.
No, and that's a
Good
good question. No, it is a good
Yes,
question.
that's a-
And I think everyone probably wants to know, but there's a lot of things I wonder about, you know.
Yeah.
But we're gonna fix them, so that's important.
That's,
And we
that's
can
why I'm saying
Changes,
good.
you know,
You're going
changes,
to
but,
fix
yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
24 should be a year of change.
So this would be,
Well,
as it
22 and
relates to
23 will be
finance, this would be something that,
21?
if we
Was
move
that the-
forward with it,
Let's see where it
would
started.
appear as a renewal. We already have committed to Genesis on the, student information side. So there would be an upfront cost, and that's what we're currently looking at with all potential vendors, not just Genesis. And then depending on the scope of the services we decide are best for Monroe, there would probably be some sort of reoccurring annual fee.
Which we pay anyway
Which-
currently.
Which we're currently paying to another vendor.
Could we
that
see the scope when it's done of what you're referring to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah. That
I'd
would
like
be
to see
because.
all that. what
We're
you're
gonna do it, we're
referring
gonna do a
to.
timeline, and we're gonna do a projection plan of how it's gonna
And
work.
then we may select a vendor, and Ms. Christie and Mr. Feldman may get back, that isn't gonna work for us, and then we go back to the well, but I think it's important for the finance committee and really the public to know that we are committed, because we do believe that this would result in efficiencies, you know, there's stacks of papers this high. and
Still.
everything. That can't be cost effective, right? So we're looking at,
Pink sheets.
so we're
Me too,
gonna
right?
continue to look
Helps-
at
It's
that.
gonna help
Yeah.
you. Are you antiquated still in your department or? No, you're okay, good.
No, we changed that?
Yeah, we changed that the last 2 years.
But it is.
I mean, you don't know what was changed and what can still be changed in order to make your job a lot more easier.
And we're not gonna we don't just drop these things on our staff. We would make sure that if we are gonna roll out anything new, it would be done so responsibly.
Okay.
Yeah, I did ask for a project plan when they first introduced this to me, so that we can stay on track and so that future, you know, so that, you know, like I'm rolling off, so, you know, the next person that comes into this job has an idea, like this is where the plan is, and not lose the plan just because we changed, you know, board members, and that, you know, to me is a really important thing, is transition and moving, you know, continue to move forward with what the boards have done.
This would be
you
a
know, the board has
this is a
done.
pretty stable type service that many school districts employ that.
What kind of timeline for this?
Well, it depends on how quickly the next couple of weeks have. We're still in talks with potential vendors. But this would be something that for the HR module, we would hope to have ready for the start of the next school year.
Which means the onboarding and so forth would start as soon as probably March or April, to moving forward to July and then September.
And you're gonna tell Genesis, since we already have.
Oh, we already
them,
have.
They should give us. half
Yeah,
the
they
staff.
are uniquely familiar with our district. You know, they're based right out of James.
Make sure you say that. to
Yeah,
them.
they're right here, James.
And that's the other thing. They're literally right down the
Well,
street.
Then we can go stand outside their.
And they're
office.
very, very competitive. I remember we brought Genesis in, and we brought Genesis in, and no one could touch Genesis costs. It was so much cheaper
Well,
than
let's
any,
make sure
this is the way
they-
it was.
Outbeat, outbeat and maybe do a better.
So
job.
we have 1 minute, and I want to respect the
Okay.
next committee, which is.
I'm on the next committee at 7, so.
Legislative action.
Oh, vice committee, okay. So we have, the bills are the next thing up, right? I'm looking at them.
Attorney review, attorney.
Oh, attorney fees, right, so we have attorney fees, they've been reviewed, they're here for the board to see. The total of the total, attorney fees for the November invoices here, almost $20,000. 5,000 just the standard kind of stuff that we go through on a monthly basis, which is lower than it's been, which is great. We do have a special, the thing that really made this, big is there's a special defense matter that is costing us a little bit of money. And I know that we'll get some information from our legal team on that, next week at our meetings. And, so we're good there. The next is the bill list. There was really nothing on the bill list that was outlandish or anything, but I was gonna get there. But the bill list is the standard, bills for the month. We have authorized payment of payroll and other time-sensitive invoices in the last month, since it's been over almost a month now since we had a meeting and were able to approve. But following our policy, the committee chair, vice chair, and board president have reviewed at the request of the superintendent to pay those things such as salary and other time-sensitive items. So, questions?
Yes, on page 4 of 35 of the bills, there's quite a bit of in lieu of. Assuming it's in lieu of transporting a child out of district to another school, is that what it is?
Non-public, if they choose to go to a private school.
They go to private
and
school?
We would, if it's within 20 miles, we would pay them.
Right.
That amount of money. So they get paid that twice, a year.
Okay, I was gonna ask if it was quarterly, because it was coming out now, but it's twice a year,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And, a limousine service was in here too. What was that for?
Okay, what page?
Did you write that? Take limo down?
Nope.
Which page? Gail?
I can imagine that's a charter bus.
Down,
Yeah, I would think so too.
Probably your charter bus, but.
page 24, I think it is.
I know we just had a few trips to that.
Page 24.
No, that was Lennox. I had a question on that, what that was, a claim.
Yeah, so that would be one of our,
Attorneys other than.
attorney that we use for maybe an ethics or a special education.
And I think that name was on the last,
Yes.
at the last
Yes.
board meeting.
Yep.
But why can't I highlight it? Here it is. Page 33. It says coach, custom coach and limo. And there's
It's a trip.
five,
Yeah, charter bus that we use,
oh, it's a charter bus?
for, trips. If we can't accommodate
Mhm.
our buses, we have to go out, and use another bus company. So we get quotes from other bus companies, to do the trips.
And that was the name of the company?
Yep.
Custom Coach and Limo
Yes.
LLC? Okay. I think that was it.
Okay.
I think so.
That's
I
it?
can pull up the other one, but.
Ms. Gerber, any questions? No. All right, so the next item on the agenda, I believe, is, budget update?
So I just wanted to, because this is all a new process, so right now last week we met with, the facilities director and transportation to, work on their budgets. And now we're pulling everything together. The budget program, does not open up until later this month, and that's when we can, part of the program, it doesn't open up. It opens up in sections. So we can start to put information into that program. And right now, we are planning to have a budget, philosophy meeting at the board meeting next week. Just a brief, general macro presentation on the budget. And then in, February, we will have the, budget presentation, in the public hearing on that. So that will be the more detailed budget. But I did want to touch on the timeline because the calendar did come out, and that kind of dictates when everything has to take place. So just quickly, we will have, as I mentioned, the budget philosophy presentation next week, in February, we will have the preliminary budget hearing with, we won't have the state aid numbers at that point. The following week, on the 29th, we will get the state aid numbers. And then, the following week, on the 5th, March 5th, we will have the adoption of the budget by the Board of Education. So we have very little time between the time we get the state aid, you know, we have days to put that into the budget or to adjust for it. And then, because 2 days after we do have the adoption by the Board of Education, we have to file the budget with the county. The county will review it, they will approve it or not approve it. Then on the 27th of March, we will have a public hearing on the budget. And then the election will be on April 16th. After that, you know, depending on what happens, we will, on the 29th of April, we'll have the certification of the election results by the county. So that's when we find out for sure, you know, how if it passed. And if not, then it will go to the township, and they can tell us, you know, if we need to cut or make it more. That's that point. We'll see what happens there, but that's, really the timeline for what's going on with the budget. I do want to also mention that, with the election, since that's all new, we have everything, we posted on our website under the Board of Education link, you know, we have, information on the nominated petition, so that anyone who's interested can go in there, click on, it will take them right to the petition. That petition, and it's also, we advertised, so Friday, we will have 2 advertisements come out in the 2 newspapers regarding the election, the school board, election. So
Petitions are due for the Board of Education election on what day?
on February 26th,
February 26th is get your petitions in.
by 4 p.m., they need to be, brought to my office. And then on March 6th, we'll have a drawing at the board office at 2 o'clock, to determine the position on the ballot. So any candidates, you know, will have a box and we will select the position.
And everything is required in person. They cannot email it to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have to, yeah.
I just want to make sure, because, you know, people are watching, so we want to make sure we put all the
Yeah,
information out
and
there.
that's all, everything's,
And it's all, I know it's all.
all
one
on
meeting,
here,
so
so
all-
if anyone has questions, or you can contact me if there's any questions. I think that's pretty much it. That's what's going on with the budget. So it's a process, it's a long process with a lot of, details.
I just had one question, if I may.
Sure.
You said, March 5th was the adoption of the budget?
Correct. By the board. Yep, so that's at our board meeting. We'll have
That's a
the
board
adoption.
meeting.
So we adopt it as preliminary?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
And then we do the public hearing on the final on the 27th?
correct.
Okay, all right.
And I have a question.
Because we have to, once we adopt it, it goes to the county, and then it comes back to the public hearing, and then we have the election.
Okay.
You originally announced, when all this stuff was coming out, that the preliminary budget would be at the February 21st meeting. Is that not going to be?
Yeah, February 21st, that's,
It's going to be still the preliminary
Preliminary
budget?
budget hearing.
Okay, just want to make sure it was the
yeah,
same.
that's on,
Because you also
Okay.
mentioned just now like the 29th and a couple other dates, so I
Yeah.
just want to make sure I had the right one.
yeah, the 21st is actually at the board meeting, the preliminary budget hearing,
Right.
and the 29th is when we will get the state aid.
It's
amount.
not a meeting, it's just she'll be.
Yeah, I'm
meeting
sorry,
and
that's not
put
a
it in.
meeting. So next week, along with the budget philosophy, I think I'll have the timeline.
Creating this part of
created so you can
PowerPoint.
See, everyone can see the dates, and what's going on, since it's, you know, a whole new process.
And audit update?
Yeah, so the audit, was completed and filed on time, December 5th. A lot of,
Congratulations.
yeah, a lot of districts, did not get their audit filed on time. I explained before, because they're used to being, it's been delayed for the last several years. And a lot of auditors and districts expected the delay, but there was no delay, and so we had to get it done.
Well,
So-
nice job.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thanks for getting that done.
congratulations.
Thank you. So, the auditor will present the audit on, next week on Wednesday at the board meeting. There were no recommendations, it was a clean audit, everything was good.
That's great.
So, yeah, so she'll be there to present that, and we'll have, copies of the audit report sent out on Friday with the board now, so we can see that in advance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Okay.
I have,
Any other
I
business?
found the other question I have.
Yes.
Back on the bill list, page 17, it says Maloof Ford, M19.
Oh, yeah, so that
What
would
is
be,
that?
parts or, supplies for a maintenance vehicle
Oh, okay.
for service, if they need service, but that would be for a maintenance vehicle.
So we don't have one person that we go to for all the parts and things that you have to go to Maloof?
No, if our transportation department can't, the, mechanics can't fix something, a bus or a maintenance vehicle, sometimes we do have to send them out, or we have to get parts or, something from a different vendor.
We stay in-house always first.
As
Right,
much as
of
we
course.
But then we go
Because
external.
you do have great mechanics here.
We
with
do.
you.
Oh, yes.
A lot of times, even if you take your car to, Joe Schmo down the road,
You still have to go to.
they may have to call Maloof Auto to, because they have the part. They
They
don't,
have the part.
these guys don't keep the parts in stock, I know that some of these auto mechanic shops, they actually hire a driver who just drives around and picks up parts all day long, because that's what they do. They don't keep stock of it. It would be crazy. Their inventory would be nuts to do stuff like that. So yeah, that means,
I mean, because that was all the way in North Brunswick, you had to go get the part in North Brunswick, because that's where Maloof is.
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I was, they came all the way here. And he's not cheap.
any other business for this committee? All right, thank you very much, for indulging. That ends the, finance committee meeting for January 10th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.